Alright everyone, what was deemed impossible a year ago has actually happened. We have had, in the US economy, 3 quarters now in a row with 3% growth or higher. That hasn't happened in a long time, since before the recession hit. It stopped hitting 3% many quarters before. That was 2005. Mid-2005 is the last time the economy grew like that. And you'll remember, the end of the Bush era, recession comes along, banking sector begins to crumble, automotive begins to crumble, home sector begins to crumble. Bush is like, oh fuck, and then Obama's like, oh fuck too, and bails everything out with private money instead of letting things correct themselves. Obama was famously involved with that shtick about the new norm. The new norm is lower growth, higher unemployment. This is just the way that things are. You're going to have to deal with it. You know, America will never be the same because, you know, postmodern economics or something. 2 of those things that he discounted as possible to ever reverse have already been reversed. In 1 year of Trumponomics, which is, you know, Trump was the one being blamed there that 1 month that the jobs reports came in too low. So at this point, you got to stop talking about this being the Obama economy. Obama's no longer in the White House and hasn't been for over a year. It's not the Obama economy anymore, it's the Trump economy. We have 3% growth, which Krugman and the Democrats and the media, the New York Times, said it's laughable to think we'll hit 3%. It'll probably never happen again. Certainly not for any great degree of time. Instead, we've spent almost a year now at 3% or more in growth. Unemployment has ticked down below the critical threshold that it was holding at too. I think 4%. It hadn't gone that low since the 2000s. Everything, economically speaking right now, is improving. Growth is finally keeping pace with population growth, along with job growth. Job growth continues. Now, supposedly, the big thing is this. All of these same people who said we'll never hit 3% growth again, or at least not for like a fucking generation, all of these people also thought that Trump would be terrible for the economy. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing. His tax cuts will harm the economy. Instead, the economy seems to be doing fine in the wake of his tax cuts. Come next tax season, oh, it's going to be great for a lot of people. There's going to be a lot more money that people are pumping back into the private economy instead of giving it to Uncle Sam to give to a handful of military firms, which is what Uncle Sam will do with it. What do you think Uncle Sam would do with the extra $100 billion or something? He's just going to blow things up with it. Who fucking cares? It's funny to see people on the left not comprehend that. What, you think it's going to poor people? No, bullshit. It's not going to no fucking welfare recipient. It's not going to some pregnant woman or some orphan. It's going to go into the form of missiles and bombs. And you support that because you've begun to embrace people like John McCain. It's the most weird thing I've ever seen. Krugman swore up and down, oh, within a month we're going to have a major economic crash. It'll be a depression. You remember when the stock market sputtered there and fell for 3 days? All of a sudden it was Trump's economy. Oh, this is the Trump economy kicking in. We'll hold him to it. Since then, no more sputtering. Things are going along fine. It's a breath of fresh air. It's nice to have a little bit of optimism now, isn't it? This is the way that things were before the recession. Even during the days of the Iraq War, there was a sense generally the economy is okay. You know, we are at war, but, you know, domestically we're trying to keep the peace. We're doing what we need to do. Before Iraq, is like it was a love fest for years and years. This is sort of, if I had to compare this to another era that I'm familiar with, sort of the pre-dot-com bubble bursting era, certainly, sort of the Clinton era, and the fall of the Soviet Union in the wake of that, a general era of good feeling. This can go on for a number of years. Now, eventually, yes, it does stagnate and die out, and there's a downturn. Eventually, there will be another recession, but you can't predict when that's going to be. If you could reliably predict when recessions were going to be, when the stocks would be down, you'd be the richest person in the world now, wouldn't you? These economists are just opinion analysts. That's really all that they are. They take guesses, educated guesses at best, and half the time that they're wrong. In fact, for Krugman lately, it's way more than half the time. He got the Nobel Prize in economics. He doesn't even know anything about economics. Put it that way. If the Fed just micromanages everything, everything will be maximized and perfect and cushy, and socialism can work. Okay, Nobel Prize for you. Yeah, there's a reason why I say Trump. If they were to try to give him the Nobel Prize, I would love it. It would make Trump legendary if he just refused to show up. No, I don't want the Nobel Prize. Give it to someone who cares. Give it to some other. Give another recipient. Give Kim Jong-un my copy. That's okay. Give him the money. He could use it. You know, he can buy his whole fucking country dinner, essentially. No. The economy's at 3%, has for 3/4. They claimed it would never happen. Trump certainly would never be able to make it happen. Trumponomics was voodoo economics. It was a bad thing, and yet it seems to be working. Wages are rising. Unemployment's ticked down. More people have jobs. Now, not all those jobs are great jobs. Some of them are, flipping burgers, but it's an improvement. Some productivity has taken place. People are spending and lending more now. It's pretty good. They raise interest rates. People are like, oh, they're going to destroy the economy. It can't hold. It's untenable. No, it seems to be fine. Everything's going along fine. It's funny, when times are bad, people are like, the sky is falling. But when times are good, they just assume that the next time is going to be bad. It's like they can't stop thinking in pessimistic terms. How about there are occasional periods of reprieve? Right now, we're not in any major conflicts. We almost had one, I think, over North Korea. I don't expect a conflict over Iran. We'll see if history bears me out. People like Spencer a year ago were predicting the economic collapse would already be here. Oh, well, where's that collapse? For a few days, all of the pessimists, people that didn't like Trump, and people who assumed that the deep state is going to throttle him, were like, oh, well, we were right. And I'm sitting there chuckling. I'm like, it's probably a minor correction at most. Just give it a few days and stop worrying. But then again, I also predicted that cryptocurrency would have the exact problem that it did. Maybe I should have Krugman's position. No, I wouldn't want it. I don't envy him his job, even if he is a moron. No. The economy's at 3%. They swore it wouldn't happen. It's happened. Well, there you go. There's the Trump economy kicking in. Expect his approval to continue to look. This isn't a major story because the New York Times doesn't want to tell you about it. CNN doesn't want to write it up. If these sites write up anything that looks positive for Trump, they'll keep it there, on the sidebar for a short period and then knock it off artificially in order to make sure as few people know about it as possible. It's like the other day they had a poll about the Mueller case. And it was like, how much have you heard about the Mueller case? It's like 49% said a lot, then like 20% said, some, and a lot of people said like very little or nothing at all. And they said, are you aware that it has uncovered any crimes? And it was like more than half of people said no. And I guess the idea of the poll was, people are actually ignorant because it did uncover crimes. There have been a number of indictments. Indictment is not the same as finding of criminal wrongdoing. That's an indictment. You've got to then investigate, bring them up on trial. Once they're found guilty, then you've obviously found a crime. Until they're found guilty, it's not a crime that they've committed. You just suspect that it is. That's basically, you've got enough suspicion, enough evidence to get a proceedings going, an official criminal proceedings or a civil case or something. Well, you haven't actually culminated those cases. Some of these people, they're saying, no, I didn't commit any crime, you're totally wrong. And the probe's falling apart anyway. So, yeah. It's interesting to see the state of the world right now. I'm very optimistic still. I feel just fine. I feel much more optimistic than last year. Let's put it that way. That's about all. Peace out.